live bait when we're catching sailfish and dolphin on live bait. It's not at all unlike your kingfish tackle. And how on earth are we going to hold a 300-pound blue marlin on that reel? It's very easy. There's 100 yards of mono on here. There's 700 yards of hollow core braid beneath it, which means the hollow core braid accomplishes two things. First off, you can pile a whole bunch of it on your reel, and second off, it has no belly. So when people tell you that you hooked a marlin or you hooked a wahoo, he burned off 300 yards straight away as fast as you could go. No, he didn't. I can almost promise you he didn't. He probably went 50 yards, and that wasn't working, so he went out that way 50 yards. And it's so funny because I see it with sailfish and I see it with marlin all the time. I've got a guy in the back of the boat and he's fighting this fish and it's going, and somebody starts screaming, "Look, there's another one!" You know, I'm like, no, that's not another one. Your monofilament is going out and all the way around, and he's jumping up there. Okay? That doesn't happen with hollow core braid. Your braid has no water resistance, so it follows the fish wherever he goes. Now, the only downside to that is the first time you use it, it's going to go slack, and you're going to go, "Oh, I lost it." No, you didn't. He just made a turn, and you don't have any belly in your line. You keep taking line off. You tighten up your line, you'll find it again. Okay? So that's why all of our tackle is a lot lighter than what you will see on most boats. For our everyday Gulf Stream trolling, this is the rod and reel that we use. Okay? This rod and reel has a lighter tip to it. Here again, we've got 200 yards of mono on here and 800 yards of braid underneath it. If I get spooled on 1,000 yards of line, I'm not doing a very good job. Okay, I didn't run the boat the right direction. All right, so you will find that a 20-pound dolphin on this outfit is about as much fun as you can have with your clothes on. So I highly recommend when you go to get that tackle, think lightning. These are Tiernos 20s. We fish these and we fish Tiagra 30s. Is the heaviest stuff that you'll ever see us using. Now, we're going to get into bait rigging in a minute, but we're so nuts about it that this tip is a little bit light for setting a hook into lure styles like this one, which is a plunger head. Get off there. When you have a plunger head like this, it actually adds a little more resistance, okay, and is pulling a little more on that rod tip, which means that you don't have as much oomph when you go to hook that fish. So when we usually fish 2 long outriggers and 2 shorts, our 2 longs will be the heavier rod tips like this one. The 2 shorts will be the lighter rod tips like this one, and I'll show you the difference in the bait. We are natural bait fishermen for the most part. I fish all mono leaders. Okay, well, I'll show you an exception to that. I fish mostly mono leaders. My theory is this: give me all the bites that I can get. Okay, if I'm trolling along and I get a bite and it cuts my leader in 2 and he's gone, guess what? There's fish at that spot. Okay, we have found them. That may well have been a fish that would not bite a wire leader. All right, or the kind of hooks we use, it may well be a fish that gets the hook in a position where we get him anyway. We catch a pile of wahoo using long shank hook on mono leaders that they never reach up past the shank of the hook to get through. I know some things about mono leaders. First off, your bait swims better. It looks a lot more natural than it does on a stiff piece of wire. And I know that, and this is something I want you to listen to me now, whether it's a sailfish, whether it's a dolphin, whether it's a tuna, if it's anything that doesn't have wahoo-type teeth, I will give you $1 if you ever bring me one that swallowed a bait fish this way. Think about it. God did not design a bait fish to go down a fish's throat this way. His gills flare out, his fins flare out, everything flares out to keep him from being swallowed. All right? Now what that means is, when a fish hits a bait, he's going to turn around and swallow it this way. All right, so what do you think it's easier to do for a Mahi, a dolphin? Is it easier for a dolphin to hit that bait, turn it on 60-pound mono and swallow it, or turn it on number 10 wire and get it in his mouth?
You catch way more fish
I
on
know we get a better hookup ratio on monofilament leaders. And I can tell you that if I see a dolphin coming out of my tower and Zeke's there in time to have the reel out of the rod holder and his thumb on it ready to drop back to that dolphin, there's a 99% dinner he's going to be dinner this week. 99% chance he's going to be dinner this week. Okay? We miss very few fish
One in the water,
doing
catch
it
the
on
whole school.
monofilament leaders. Give me the bites. Anybody got any questions about that? All right, let's start with ballyhoo. We rig a lot of ballyhoo before we leave the dock. Okay?
Thought everybody did that.
I want, whoever my mate is, I want him standing here watching the banks. Sailfish sneaks up and bumps that flat line, I want him to see it. Here's what I can't figure out. I see this every day I'm at the land. Here's a guy who is $400,000 in debt to pay for his boat. Okay? He worked 80 hours this week. He worked all day Saturday cleaning out the garage so his wife wouldn't kill him. He finally gets to go fishing on Sunday, okay? And sure enough, the bite's happening. It's going off. Well, he'll be there in a minute. He's rigging this bait, okay? Everything, once you get, the amount of time it takes us to get to the Gulf Stream out of here, to get to deep water out of here, takes up so much time coming and going that 7 or 8 hour window that you've got while you're there, it's all about time management. And you take the best, think about the best fishing trip you ever had. All right, it might have lasted 8 hours, 10 hours, 24 hours. How long did the fish bite? Maybe an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, okay? Please don't be downstairs rigging baits for me all that 2 hours is going on, all right? We're going to do them all the night before. We set up a regular little assembly line and do them a dozen at a time. This is the plunger from a deboater, okay? You can use an arrow shaft, you can use a dowel, you can use whatever you want. Before we start, sliding our dozen ballyhoo on our towel. I promise, guys, I'm being as clean as I can up here. They may close 57 there.
I would go ahead and steady. I'd take care of that.
No, the problem better not be part of your own.
Well, I just wonder when he's behind the table.
You with me? We slide a dozen on here. All right? In the interest of speed, I'll make it 3. Out come the snips. Okay? Hey, listen to what I'm going to tell you next. I really want you to hear this. If you hopped on the best ballyhoo pulling boat tomorrow, which around here, probably the Jody Lynn 2, maybe the Legend, J-Hook, there's a lot of real good ones. If you stepped on their boat tomorrow and went ballyhoo fishing, you'd catch a whole bunch of fish, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference in what they do versus what you do. It's in 1,000 little things, right? Talk about the littlest thing. If I take these ballyhoo and I snip their bills off like that, to where they're all square, okay, that ballyhoo's going to swim straight. Part of his bill sticking up on one side is not going to make him lay on his side and skip. That's not how bait fish swim. If we've got our baits working really good, if I look down out of my tower, there's not a whole bunch of splashing going on except for my plunger heads. What there is baits going through the water, and all I can see is their backs and whatever little ornament we've got on their head. That's when they're swimming straight. It's little bitty thing. Here's the next little bitty thing. Now the bills are all off equal. Look at the fins. The way they put ballyhoo in a bag when they process it. Okay? Half of the fins get turned around backwards. All right, those fins that are turned around backwards, they have to go away. So the ballyhoo will stay straight. If that fin stuck out, it's going to swim like that on its side with that fin up in the air. You got me? Okay.
Keep busy, ain't you? You can handle it.
Next, we're going to clean out his insides. This one must have been eating at 57 hip and he's full of it.
A lot easier we did it back in the old days with a deboner.
Yeah.
Okay? He is ready to rig. Now, here's what I get tickled about. If you read the magazine, you learn how to rig a ballyhoo with a magazine. You'll see that you take this ballyhoo and you make it swim like a snake. Holy smokes. Look at that thing swim through the water. Just like it looks like a snake. Problem is, you ever seen a snake swimming through the ocean looking like that? No. No. Stop all this breaking down your ballyhoo. Here's what you want to do to them. Come to their back fin, their anal fin, push the meat away from the bone, like so, bend the tail up till it touches, then bend it the other way. All right, I don't care if the backbone breaks or not. I care that the meat gets forced off of the backbone. You with me? Look at the difference in the way he swims versus the way that the snake swims. And when I look back down from my little tower and I see that, I'm really, really happy.
Fish on.
Okay? First, we're going to rig him for sailfish. See, here for me just a second. Tie that so that it doesn't have to be long.
Top of the ball now.
There are two things you never, ever, no matter where you're going, leave in your boat without. One of them is a 5-gallon bucket. Okay?
Too bad.
Why do you never leave without a 5-gallon bucket? Anybody know? Go to the bathroom? Very good answer. No, that's right. Anybody else got an idea why you never leave without a 5-gallon bucket?
I use it for chum.
No, talking about who's good too, but I can promise you from experience that God has never made a bilge pump that works as well as a scared man with a 5-gallon bucket. I have saved boats by being in an assembly line of guys passing up 5-gallon buckets while the other ones came back down.
I don't know.
So we don't go fishing on the 7th without a 5-gallon bucket.
I actually sunk one out there one day.
All right, I'll give a free trip on the 7th.
I had a bow
To
ride.
anybody in this room, not you, Rachel, because you know the story.
My hand come
And you
down,
get
hit
to go
the
free
ball.
all the time anyway.
Flip right over.
Who can tell me why the name of my boat is the
Everybody,
7th?
9 miles.
This is the last time I preach tonight, okay? Why is the name of my boat the 7th? All right? If you ever looked at it, you'd have a clue. The T at the 7 for me is the sign of the cross. It's built that way, okay? How many disciples were there? Anybody know?
12.
12, very good. How many of them were fishermen? 7. That's right. That's right. That's why we named it the 7. All right? Sail fishing has changed a lot in the years that I've been doing it. It used to be an incidental catch for us. We caught one along with our bonita and kingfish and everything else that we fished for. And then some guys down south of here, around Fort Pierce, brought back some secrets from Costa Rica and Mexico, mostly from Cozumel, and changed everything we do sailfish-wise. Sail fishing is no longer done with J-hooks at all, largely because all the fish have to be released. Or shit, you don't have to. Almost all are released. But even better, the tournament started requiring circle hooks, so you wouldn't kill so many sailfish. So the guys started practicing in their day-to-day fishing with circle hooks, and lo and behold, they learned that for sailfish and a few other species, circle hooks work much better than J-hooks do. And the cool thing is, you don't have to make leaders, you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is get an itsy bitsy O-ring, like most y'all can't see, and twist it onto the end of your copper wire. Oh, by the way, the reason you don't leave the dock without copper wire is copper wire can be used for anything. You can use copper wire for an outrigger. You can use it for anything. I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. But anyway, you put an O-ring, and what I do is we take out a whole tube of these copper wires that come in tubes just like this. Take them out while I'm watching Gator football. Grab O-rings on the end of them, slide them all back in. Okay, and I've got a stash ready to go sailfish. That's how long it takes me to rig up for sailfish. We will then take our ballyhoo. Now, God was really good to us. God gave ballyhoo a lip right there, just so we could rig them for sailfish. The top of his mouth is really a bone, but then there's a dead space that is a membrane and a soft spot that you can poke your copper wire through if I have my readers.
Everybody got you with this check?
No, I'm good. I'm just thinking about trying to move this to
Who
a
needs
spot.
them stinking readers? All right? Just slide your copper wire from the soft spot in the middle of the ballyhoo down through the bottom of his jaw and pull your O-ring down to the top of his head, just like that. All you want is the O-ring laying on top of his head. You're then going to take that copper wire, you're going to bring it behind one gill, bring it across his back, bring it behind the other gill, okay? Come through his eye sockets a couple of times. You can or cannot, at your discretion, slide a little lead right there if you want to. We quite often use either an 1/8 or a 1/16. Don't use too much weight. Now, if you use more weight, if you used a 1 ounce weight right here, you can troll a lot faster. You can cover a lot more territory. Okay? And seems to me like you can get more bites because you're showing your baits more fish. But here's the problem. Sailfish, like every other fish, has to grab this bait, has to stop it from swimming, okay? And then he will turn around and eat it. Alright? The problem is you put too big a weight on here, the minute he goes to turn around to eat that thing head first, what does the bait do? It sinks. Now it may only sink 18 inches, but he feeds the same way every day for a living. Okay, if the bait has fallen unnaturally 18 inches, when he turns around, there's a good chance he won't see it. You'll end up dropping back to nothing. So keep your weights light. There's an old saying, the bigger the weight, the dumber the bait. I think that's probably true. Okay. Wrap. Rest your copper wire around your bill. Hold his mouth shut, and voila. That is a sailfish bait. Badly mangled, but a sailfish bait. Alright, so what we will do, I brought a small version, these come in all sizes, is we will do 24 of these. 24 of these, no. For this tray we can do 24 of these. We will do, if we're sailfishing and there's a lot of bonita and dolphin around, we may do 50 or 60 of these the night before. It takes, once you get used to doing them, you can do 50 in an hour. And it's not hard to do at all. Then, on the end of each rod, we'll just have a plain old circle hook snelled on there or tied on there. That will go, if I have my readers, through the O-ring. What happens is, that O-ring is a little big for that hook. But what happens is, that O-ring wraps around that hook, and that ballyhoo won't come off of it. Okay? Everybody said, why the O-ring? Why don't you just make a little loop there? Don't ask me how, but every time I make a little loop there, my ballyhoo ends up falling off of my rig. You understand what I'm saying? Prevent that with the O-ring. Right? Now, you want to get fancy? Can you slide a sea witch? Can you slide a bait, something here? Yes. I have found that I catch more sailfish on naked baits by far than any other bait. Okay? Whether the rest of it scares them off, or because they have no teeth when they bite down, do they bite down on the lure, and it tastes funny, or the feather, whatever we're going to use, and it tastes funny and they spin them out. I don't know, but I do know we do best on naked baits. And what I'll do here again with 1,000 little things, we'll put out usually two longs, one on each end of our outriggers, 2 shorts about halfway down our outriggers, and then either 2 flat lines or 1 flat line, a teaser on the other side, and then one way back line off of my tower. Okay? But having the advantage of a regular crew is I don't need to look where the long outrigger is. Because Zeke knows where I like it, and it's going to be there. And that's important. Because if you don't know where your bait is, you're not going to see one coming. If you see a sailfish or a dolphin coming, you got a huge advantage over it. Okay? If he starts following it and he won't eat it, 2-3 cranks on the reel. Okay, speed it up a little bit. Make it try and get away from it. It'll fire him off and he'll go. If he touches it, take your reel out of gear, lightly have your thumb on it, and feed it back to him. All right, everybody with me on that? Now, where do we find sailfish? We find sailfish everywhere there's bait. We caught one off of Stewart last year in 13 feet of water. Okay, there's no magic place for them. All these inshore wrecks around here that hold bait, they hold sailfish too. Particularly July through about the 1st of October. Why they're a later summer fish for us, I don't know. But I can tell you the boats that pull bogeys over the top of the wrecks all day and they catch barracudas and kingfish and cobia, that's fine. They would catch more sailfish if they got away from the structure, quarter of a mile, okay, and circled it and pulled fish off of it, okay? Whereas an amberjack or cobia is not going to leave the wreck, a sailfish certainly will. He's a true pelagic. He hunts all over the ocean. He's just going to be in the area where there's fish. All right? Anybody else got any questions on that?
How's the health of them right now? I mean,
Do what?
the health
Of the population?
Yeah, the population.
They're in great shape. I'm so
with all the changes and
thrilled
everything.
with them. Yep. As few fishes we have that are in great shape, that's one of them.
What size hook are you using? What size circle hook?
6/0 circles.
6/0 circle.
I like the VMCs, and odors also make a good one. What you will find on circle hooks for sailfish is get the wire. Don't get the real heavy one. You understand what I'm saying?
With the wire.
Get
Because it sinks in.
the light wire VMCs. Okay, if you're fishing with the kind of tackle that we generally offer sailfish, which is this, you're not gonna drop it back. I mean, you're not gonna pull it out, straighten it out. Yes, sir.
Is it a straight inline or an offset circle?
I'm using a straight in line. Okay, I've used 10 degrees offset before. I don't find that it makes a lot of difference.
Does that want to make it spin?
No, because the hook's ahead of the ballyhoo. Ballyhoo's got a lot more water resistance than that little 10-degree thing does. So
Is there a regulation about using straight?
only in tournaments. Yeah, only in IGFA tournaments. All right, now before we go to dolphin, I want to talk a little bit. Zeke, I'm going to need your help. I bet you glad you Okay, go out there, you're going to be my take the line, go out there, you're going to be my fish. All right? Remember I told you that you never leave the dock without copper wire. Okay? That's fine. That's fine. I'll show you why. All right? We're trolling along, we're in your, or we're in Zeke's little 20-foot, 21? 18. We're in Zeke's 18-footer. And we don't have big, long outriggers. We've got enough for 2 long baits, and that's it. But every bait we fish, when we're sail fishing, is attached to a release pin somewhere. Okay? Think about this. All right? You're drinking a few beers, and you're talking about last night's football game, and nobody's really paying a whole lot of attention to the baits, what's going on. And all of a sudden, here comes a sailfish, which is not a very aggressive fish. And he comes up, and and he hits the flat line. Give me a strike. Okay, let it go. Sailfish ain't gonna pull that hard. Give me a sailfish bite. That's it. Nobody saw it. Okay? Now your ballyhoo's destroyed. He's ripped the tail of it. It's horrible looking going through the water. But nobody saw the bite. Okay? Compare the difference to what happens. And the sailfish isn't stupid. If he crushes that ballyhoo and he keeps going through the water, he's not going to run it down. Okay? But compare the difference if you're trolling along with that same flat line, but you wrap this piece of copper wire around it a couple of times, and it's dancing and it's bouncing back there on the weight, and you're not paying attention, but all of a sudden you get a strike. Look at the difference. Okay? Now everybody on the boat sees that the line's out, right? You can even leave your drag back all the way off and your clicker on, and it'll immediately start taking line. Okay? Because he's turning that bait around, he's eating it, and he's not feeling the resistance. So when you can, every time you can, have your baits attached to a release mechanism somewhere. Even on dolphin, which are so aggressive, it gives them, think about your boat going along, and that fish hits that bait and that line goes slack for that second. That second's enough time for him to turn that bait and swallow. Okay, and you've got him on. Whereas if he just pulled on that tail and ripped the tail off and the head of the bait keeps on going, no, he's not that stupid. Okay? Thank you, Steve. Well, just mine, I hope so. Yeah, you can do that too. But if everything else fails, just have a piece of copper wire with you. All right, let's get ready to dolphin fish. Dolphin are here. They're scattered. Day before yesterday, there was an excellent rip that came in close to the break, and it was covered with good fish, and there were a lot of good fish caught. I think the legend, Captain Jimmy Layler, had 14 on Sunday, but I saw the fish, and every one of those fish over 10 pounds. And for around here, that's good. That's a pretty good day. Not like we used to see, but I was telling Zeke earlier, when the man that raised me was commercial snapper fishing, they had a gut tray on top of their fish box. And when they got done gutting down their fish at the end of the day, they'd keep those guts. And so when they got on the anchor, they'd grab a handful of those guts, throw them as far as they could, and all the dolphin that were laying under the boat would run over there and eat them. And they could drop their lines down to the bottom of the snapper fish. That's how thick the dolphin were here when I was a kid. So, I mean, we still get good fishing, but I know on our boat at least, when it's real good, we hold it to a limit. If we get our 8 or 10, it's fine. I'm not going to go putting 40 or 50 in anymore. We just can't afford it. 1,600 people a day move to Florida, and it sounds like all of them want a deep sea fish. Okay, so, but anyway, let's talk dolphins. Finding them. Finding them starts 3 or 4 days before you go. Finding them is when you start watching your weather pattern and you see that we've got a southeast breeze. This time of year we live for a southeast breeze because it pushes the fish across the Gulf Stream when they're migrating on the east side like they often are. It pushes them across and it pushes the weed lines across. Now this time of year, April is still early for our dolphin season. What most guys don't realize is that weed lines are forming, but we don't have the southeast winds bringing them in all the way to the continental shelf for what we call the ledge. Okay? So there's dolphin out there, but they're on these rips and they're on these tide edges and they're on the debris that's floating. They're just much farther off than we're used to. So you kind of got to make a decision. The edge of the Gulf Stream, or the continental shelf, I should say the edge of the Gulf Stream, excuse me. The ledge has dolphin and wahoo on it 365 days a year. You just got to find them. Problem is, they might be here, they might be Charleston, they might be Jupiter. It's all one big shelf. There's always fish on it, and it's hard to leave it. I know we do 90% of our fishing either on top of the shelf or just inside of the shelf. But this time of year, either keep an ear out for your VHF or somebody that you know is off deep, or go off deep yourself to 1,000 feet, and you may well hit a bonanza because there's rips out there that have not come inshore yet, and boats haven't been on. Now, when you start finding rips inshore, which will start happening next month, pay a little attention to them. There's a couple things you've got to gauge. The first thing that comes to mind is the weed alive? Well, you can tell the difference. Dead sargassum is brown and slimy and nasty. Okay? Live sargassum is 3D. Okay, it's down in the water and it's up top. It's really more tan than it is brown. And best of all, you've got a chop in it. That means you've got two bodies of current that are running into each other. And when they do that, that traps bait fish in there. But watch, when you go buy a clump of weeds, you look, and if there's a bunch of little minnows in there, that size, stay there. Okay? That's what dolphin eat, and they're going to be there. And it's funny, believe it or not, dolphin, when they're schoolies, when they're smaller fish and they're schooling, they will eat weeds. When they get in these packs of 30 or 40 fish, and they all come up on a bunch of weed, they'll start hitting the minnows and knocking them out and all that. And one of them will just grab a mouthful of weed because he can't compete with the others, and he'll just let his digestive system sort it out. So if you've ever cut open a dolphin with weed in it, don't be surprised. I have. They're incredible animals. All right, they took one as a fry on the University of Miami, and they raised it in a floating pen offshore, till his second birthday. Who can give me his weight on the second birthday?
30 pounds.
How much? On his second birthday? Really? Who guessed over here?
30.
40? 4 pounds. 72. 72 pounds. He had non-stop access to food. Okay? They fed him non-stop. Now, they've never documented a 5-year-old dolphin. They don't live that long. 4 years old is the oldest that they've ever found. Pure bones from. So they're incredible fish. They have to eat 10 to 15% of their body weight every day. That means a 50-pound dolphin has to find 5 pounds of food every day of his life. The guy who Don's last name just went out of my head. It'll come to me in a minute. But he was from the University of South Carolina. He's the leading dolphin scientist, John Hammond. And I wrote a book on dolphin. And when I was researching for the book, he said, it's very simple, Cap. He said, the ocean breeds billions of dolphin every year. He says, some years there's enough food to support 1%, meaning sargassum and such as that, what they live off of. Some years there's enough food to support 2%, the other 98 starve to death every year. So they're amazing, amazing animals. But back to what we were talking about. When you are watching on these satellite pictures, you can go to Rutgers sea surface satellite pictures. There's a lot of free services. If you want them detailed down to the point where they draw a line on the chart and say, fish here, stupid, ROPS is an excellent service. It's one I used for many years. And they study where the sea surface breaks are, where there's a lot of zooplankton in the water, where there's the right sea conditions, the right salinity, and they will show you the areas from day to day where you can look to find different kinds of fish that you're looking for. I don't dolphin fish out of here much inshore of 120 feet. We'll start looking at anything 120 feet. Zeke and I were running home. We took a combat warrior fishing last week. We through the Wounded Warrior Project, we'll gladly take anybody that comes back. Iraq or Afghanistan or any of the other hells that we're involved in. And we took this guy out. We had a decent day catching tuna, but we're running home and we spotted an old shrimp boat tri-net. It was floating on top of the water with a big buoy tied onto it. 140 feet, wasn't it, Steve? Yeah, and it had several 12 to 18 pound Mahi under it. It was actually, also had the biggest triple tail I've ever seen. It was over 20 pounds. But, so, you have to find something to fish on. When I was first started running the boat out of Comanche Cove some 30 years ago, Robert Johnson was a big dog in Comanche Cove, and he was tied up like 2 boats over from me, and after he had pounded my brains in for like the 85th day in a row, I said, damn, Robert, I could use any help you can give me. And he just looked at me and said, you know, you got to fish somewhere all the time, Cal. And I thought, that's very nice. I appreciate it. It was 20 years later that I realized he told me everything I needed to know. Okay? You have to fish somewhere. For dolphin, that generally means rips. That generally means weed lines. But not any old weed line will do. Is the grass alive? Is there bait under it? And is there current in it? You can see the current in it if there's chop. Then you've got to look and see how many boats are in it. Right? It's a Sunday afternoon in May out of St. Augustine, and you can count 80 boats going straight up to the north up there on this rip. That's not my rip. Okay, everybody's pounding that rip. I would rather have a rip that you have to work to see. It's just weed here, weed there, kind of scattered, but you can tell that there's a little bit of formation to it. I'd rather have that anytime than a gorgeous rip with 30 or 40 boats already on it. They've been on it since day one. Dolphin, one thing about dolphin, they will almost always eat the first thing they find in the morning. They wake up hungry. And if somebody's trolled over the top of their heads, they're probably already been caught. All right? Let's rig a dolphin bait. Anybody got more questions about hunting for dolphin? All right, I didn't do a very good job. It starts right now, okay? It's good through May. In June, it kind of drops off. Usually about the 10th of June, it's just about over. The barracudas will take over. I'm talking about from 21 fathoms out to the ledge. What most people don't understand is we get dolphin in the party grounds in September and October. And places like East 18 and BR and Southeast 16, 17, we get, now they're not real big fish, but a lot of them are 10, 12 pounds. We get them coming back down south on the inside of the stream so they don't have to fight it. And you can actually make out a pretty good day in September and October trolling for dolphin and sailfish. October is just about our prime time for sailfish. And they come through a little further offshore in the fall than they stay in the summer. The summer fish are kind of resident. They stay here all summer. The one that comes through in the fall are headed down south for the South Florida sailfish bite near Palm Beach. But they come through here, and 12 is the best day I've had off here. But there's a lot better fishermen than I have that have done a lot better than he does today in October and November. So, let's rig a dolphin bait or two. Here we are with all mono. We fish 2 kinds of baits. We fish a naked or a small sea witch. We make our own sea witches because we go through so doggone many of them and it takes no time to make them. Get that piece of copper wire. Pull it. Here. Yes, you ain't better not be. Thank you, ma'am. All right, here's our standard dolphin rig. We will fish plungers and light sea witches with little inline weights like so. Now, you probably haven't seen a hook like this. This is an owner long shank tacky hook. Okay, it is extremely sharp. Now, the reason we have to have hooks so sharp is because we fish such light tackle for what we're doing. You understand what I'm saying? If we're going to drive a hook into a dolphin, it hits the bait 40 yards behind our boat,